Do we look at live streaming? Like we have the performer live stream something and we offer a live stream, and maybe we negotiate the fees, especially if they're live streaming from their homes, negotiating fees and looking at that. Like we have, several of us have hired people who are from Chicago area this year that we're working together with them and looking at what we can do to kind of facilitate making sure that those performers do get paid, because they should get paid, but also keeping in mind our community and making sure that we are keeping our community safe as well.
Yeah, those are all excellent questions.
I would suggest, just on something you said, if we're not able to gather people together and go to a live stream and you have a performer giving their performance live stream, I think if you can, you should still pay them their full amount. You've budgeted for it, you know, it should be there, and they're still doing the job.
Yeah.
And they need it more than ever. So that's what I will try to do, I think.
That's why I was playing around with possibly moving their performance away, further away from June and July. I don't know what that means for doing June and July programming if I move my performers into winter and summer.
One thing Monroe, this is Andrea, one thing Monroe has been pondering is truly the dates we will use for summer programming.
Right.
As they typically parallel what the district does for summer school. And then we take the month of August off of all programming. And so I'm almost wondering if that's going to end up, at best, being flip-flopped. I guess that's what I'm hoping at the moment. But we too are not canceling any performers at this point. I'm sure that we will pay them regardless of how or when we receive their services.
That's kind of what I was thinking too, is like not do performers in June and early July and move them.
I think as we're all, I'm sure, pondering is the fact that a whole lot of this we really can't make any decisions about.
Right, exactly.
It's like just pondering all the possibilities, being prepared for whatever ultimately gets decided, and then we're going to have to move fast.
I have a question too. I don't know how to pay for it. I get $5,000 plus from my local, this is Christy, I'm talking about Spring Green this time. I get about $5,000 of free stuff from all my local businesses, and I can't even justify asking them this year for anything because honestly, I'm not sure how many are even going to survive, and I'm terrified and I feel horrible, and I want to support them as a community member, but we also have a very limited budget. And the one grant we were going to go for, they have now postponed indefinitely because they don't know, you know, when are we going to be able to use the money. So any thoughts on that?
Well, my thought is for us, STEM programming has become really popular. It doesn't cost as much as performers. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to say don't hire performers because we should hire performers. But if you can't afford it, if you just do smaller programs that don't cost as much to still be able to take care of your community's needs, and how do we figure out what do our communities need?
We do have a lot of that already prepped, but my other problem is they do a lot of the donations for the reading program too. In fact, the only reason we have an adult reading program at all is because all of these fantastic local businesses donate, you know, tickets to APT. Well, actually, we'll probably still get those. They're fine. Tickets to APT and coffee from the local coffee place, and a lot of different food businesses donate gift certificates. And so, and then they do that also for the kids too. And so it's just kind of like, I mean, and how do you track the reading program anyway, which is a whole other discussion question. But any
Christina,
thoughts?
I appreciate how difficult that's going to be for you and your community. One thing I'm just going to throw this out, that perhaps your local businesses won't be able to donate as much as they have in the past, but I am thinking that everybody is going to need all the help that they can get, all the free PR and all of the free promotion. And so maybe some of your businesses, even if they're scaled back donations, that they may still want to participate, because boy, how awesome is that they get to say they were a partner to the Spring Green Summer Reading Program, and you know, really play on that. We're a community and we're in this together, and reading for kids is still too important, and you know, those kinds of things. So I don't know if that helps, but maybe you can sell it to the businesses as well.
So what unique ways do you guys use for giving out incentives? We've been hearing a lot about not doing incentives for everything everybody reads.
Can we hold on just 1 second, Karen, before we go to incentives? I think, did I hear Murray? I heard a male voice. Okay.
Yes.
And I want to give you some time because I think it seemed like you were going to react to Christy.
Yeah, this is Murray in Marshfield, both to Christina and Dawn. I would agree, because we usually send out a letter to all the businesses like first week of March, and we weren't able to do that. And I'm almost relieved that we didn't do it at our usual time, because when we send our letters out, we're still going to ask, but I think I'm going to put a paragraph in there about, we understand the stress that the pandemic has put on your business, but we are still asking for whatever support you can give us, because like in Marshfield, we have a roller rink and a bowling alley that both have given us like about 500 coupons a year as incentive prizes. And, you know, they still might do it again this year, and they may not, or they might reduce it. But I think it's good to be wary of especially, I'm not so worried about the chains, like, because we send out letters to McDonald's and Arby's and stuff. I'm not so worried about them. But, you know, the hometown businesses that we ask from, that's what I'm a little concerned about. And we're kind of prepping that we're not going to have as much as what we usually have. I mean, we're still going to get the South Central coupons. We're still going to get the Pizza Hut coupons. And if we have to downsize this year, I think the public in general will probably understand that anyway.
That's true.
So I have a question for Christy. Do you also receive financial contributions from the small business or from the local businesses equaling a couple of $1,000s? Is that one of your concerns too? And have you kind of budgeted for that money? I want to make sure that we're addressing your concerns too.
Can you hear me? Have I unmuted myself? Okay.
Yeah.
Both. Yes, both. So this year we were going to ask the local banks to help sponsor a program. And then we have a fantastic construction company who also helps pay for. She's like, here, use it. You know how to use it. And I think they will be okay, because they're actually, the little banks are okay. But a lot of our prizes, and for our incentives, which I know we'll talk about in a minute, but for our incentives, we do not even the tchotchke stuff. We do a lot of the paper stuff that you print, the SCLS prints, and crayons or pencils We did pins last year, so everybody collected a pin every week. So it's not like a lot of big stuff, but what really gets the kids excited is our big prize packs that they can win, and we usually do about 40, and they value somewhere between 20 and 50 bucks, and that's where we get a lot. So we get tickets to go to Cave of the Mounds and movie tickets, and we got like a little telescope last year and all of this. It's so like, I guess I shouldn't be worried about the prize packs because I can always make that work, but I just don't want to take more out of my regular budget than I need to, and to try and get those kids to be excited to come back in the library, because again, that's another thing we got to worry about. Yes, they see us online, but how do we get them back in the building once they're able to come back in the building, you know?
Okay.
A whole bunch of stuff, but basically just I want to support our local business. I want to give the kids the program that they expect, and make them excited about it. But how do I do it when I know that my local businesses are hurting, and I may not be able to do the programming that I want to do this summer because of all of the things that are going on.
So what I'm hearing from you, Christine, from everybody is such deep compassion for your communities, for the small businesses, for your organizations. And I think that is how we present any type of ask to local businesses, to ourselves too, that this is going to be a different year and our community members are going to understand it.
Yeah.
Thanks for that compassion. So should we have a discussion now about incentives? Karen, you started us off a few moments ago. Let's talk for a few minutes about what you're thinking about in terms of incentives. Is it changing the way you're using them this year? Are you thinking, and by you, I mean all of you, are you thinking about maybe using fewer of them, using less incentives and moving away from incentive-based programs this summer? So I'll open it up.
I would love to figure out how to do that, and just haven't gotten there yet because it's not, the whole team of the library isn't on board with completely getting rid of incentives. We have the South Central incentives, which I didn't realize that you were pretty sure that we're still going to get those.
Yeah, we are. We're sure that we're going to get them. That's
And
been confirmed for a couple of months.
that's mostly what we use.
Yeah.
We have not for maybe 10 years now purchased plastic trinkets. We actually still have quite a few left over from 10 years ago. We do books and handmade items that the community donates, but we also do like buckets. So for instance, if a business only donates one $10 coupon and another business donates, 5 $20 coupons, but I have 1,000 people in the program, so they get overtime. Once they finish reading where they collect all their South Central incentives, then any reading they do above and beyond that, they get overtime tickets that they enter into a bucket of something they want to win. So if they want to win the snowshoes from Rutabaga, they enter that bucket. If they want to win a $10 coupon from the local deli, they enter their ticket in that bucket.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, we in McFarland, I really want to kick myself with all this because we decided to try brag tags this year. And it's like, okay, so this is a new thing that we're going to do. And it's like, are we going to have kids physically coming into the building to pick up their brag tags? But we decided we're still going to do the South Central, but we got rid of the weekly prize drawing because I hated calling people every week and then they'd sit in our desk and it was a waste of money. It was tchotchkes. But we had the brag tags with the beads that we're doing. And then we're doing like the bucket idea, but each time they can enter for a grand prize. And I think we were looking at 5 that we combined with the teen and the children's program, but we were already realigning for prizes this year anyway for incentives, just because we felt like useless pieces of plastic. And now, especially since they're germ carriers, we're getting rid of a lot of the useless piece of plastic, but it's like, okay, we have these brag tags that we're gonna have to figure out at some point.
I think my big focus is going to be on getting as many books to kids as possible. Like that's where I want all of our money to go. And still kind of trying to figure out how to do that. And of course, by that time, who knows? But we were looking at possibly partnering with local bookstores like A Room of One's Own and Mystery to Me, and either having them ship books individually to kids, or if they wanted to ship us books and then we could literally drive to people's houses and put them in their mailboxes. I haven't even started talking logistics of this with my director and with the adult services and teen services folks, but that was one idea. And this is Amanda from Stoughton.
Thanks, Amanda. Bye, Kelly. Kelly Allen is leaving us. Thanks for joining in. So I'm hearing that this is a time to think about how we're using incentives. Did you say the germ catcher, Amanda, or was that Heather who? No, it was Heather who talked about the incentives, the plastic as being germ catchers. Wow, I mean, what a great excuse to stop doing it. Anything else about incentives? Yeah, I hear somebody coming in.
This is to reply to Amanda. I don't know what kind of financial resources you have in terms of buying books. I know last year Scholastic sells a lot of paperback, picture books, early readers, and if you buy them in bulk for like a couple $100, you can get a lot of books that way, and they're paperback. Because we're going to do that. We have some money for the summer, and I'm going to probably buy, $200 to $300 worth of Scholastic paperback books, and Scholastic does it where they have them for preschoolers, for first and second grade, for older. So I buy a batch for each age group. So that's another. If you have the money, that's kind of a good way to go and get in terms of getting a lot of books for not a lot of money. It's usually less than $1 a book usually.
Yeah, I'm seeing people in the comments saying interstate books for schools and the warehouse sales, but I also wonder, are those places accessible? Like, can we even, I know interstate books for schools you can order online, but I don't know if I haven't looked to see if they're even operating.
So I'm looking at the chat. If you haven't had an opportunity, as Amanda mentioned, that there are some suggestions coming up in the group chat. So go ahead and jot those down. I also forgot to tell you all that I am recording this session, so you can go back and look at it. Of course, I forgot to press record until we were about 10 minutes into our program, so we'll miss some of the earlier comments that we had about programming, about program statistics, but this will be available to view later after I figure out how to post it.
This is Andrea. I just looked up books for school online, and they said that their website remains open to receive orders and they will continue to ship orders, but their warehouse is closed to walk-in customers.
Thank you.
So those of us who are in the Madison area might have to learn how to place an order from the warehouse instead of just going over to the building, or we wait until they open. But that it's all dependent on when we do our summer programming. I liked the idea of waiting to start summer programming until after summer school. I don't even know if they're going to do summer school.
Okay, this is Dawn from Portage. Believe it or not, I had my entire summer program planned through August. And we were coincidentally, before anybody knew anything about the virus, relying just on our local teachers to help my assistant and I do the programming. I was going to, do the regular story times. I was introducing a K-2 book club. My assistant is very strong in art, so she usually takes that on. I was starting a Spotlight on Community feature and had already lined up a couple of different businesses that were going to come in and do programming. And I was very, very excited for this summer because we were going to do so many new things. And the only performer that we had lined up was for mid-July, the Hampstead Players. And I'm not sure who the librarian is that posted on KidList about it, but it's an amazing theater group that has a pop-up group out of Chicago, and I was very excited to be able to piggyback on somebody in Madison to bring them to Portage. So that was the only paid performer that we had for this summer. Then when things started to look pretty dire, I did spend a little bit of time with my assistant talking about how we could transfer everything to an online reading program. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I do fear that even when we are open, that there will be some hesitation from families, especially with the younger children, that they're not going to want to maybe come into the library. So I was prepared to do as much as we could online, kind of stumble through it the way we are now. And we use the Wandu Reader, so we'd be able to allow the families to create their accounts online, track pages, time, whatever. And at some point we would provide the incentives. The only incentives that we really provide are the ones we get through South Central, and then a few of our local businesses who come to me. I do not have to go to them asking, they come to me and provide, the coupons for our local popcorn corner, our A&W, and then we have a few others that are really good partners. So I personally, I'll be devastated if we cannot do all this wonderful stuff with the kids in the library, but I have been trying to figure out what it might look like to do a virtual online summer reading program. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I just wanted to mention that we were also planning huge new things, and we actually started an incentive program that everybody really liked last year, and I don't know that it's going to work this year, unfortunately, and it's really sad. But my thought and my worry is that a lot of families in our town don't have access to internet at home, and so my worry is if we do everything online, how do we reach those people? And my thought on programming is that, obviously we don't know exactly what it's going to look like at this point, but my thought is maybe we do some hands-on programs that we limit, we really have to limit the numbers of, but do them more often. So maybe do 3 or 4 of those in a day. It's going to take a lot more staff time, but because we're all kind of we're not using a lot of our hours right now, we may have extra staff. And I do luckily have an intern this summer. So I'm hoping that maybe doing that will help bridge that gap, and then maybe have kits available for people who do have online resources, have the kit and then put a video up for them to follow along. So we're doing kind of a little bit of both, something for those people who can't do things online, and then the other component for those who do have that access.
That's a really good point, and that had come up in our discussion as well. One thing was we have a new my library has a new director, and we also have a new director of our park and rec. And he had actually just been to one of our staff meetings, and I had worked out where I was going to try and do some story times in the park, story times at the beach. We were going to promote, lunch with the librarian, where I do a story time, bring a sack lunch and eat with families. So we may be able to expand that story time outside. Let's take it outdoors. We'll be in fresh air and spread out more than in the library. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of mentally exhausting right now.
This is Andrea from Monroe. It's just dawning on me. I wonder if kind of a mashup of some of the things people have suggested could work. For example, you do the same event outdoors, but at 3 different times in a day, and you could ask people to sign up so that you could keep, the numbers at whatever we might need to keep them at in terms of gatherings of people, multiple people.
I had a question. I wondered if anyone else was kind of considering throwing out the reading log and reading tracking and hours that we normally do, because it is such an unusual time. Like, I was thinking of giving away the book at the beginning of the summer. Like, here's something to read for the summer reading program, versus making it the end of the summer prize.
This is Andrea from Monroe again. We started that a couple of years ago, and we give out a book with each completed form the kids turned in. So we do one per month, and it has it looks like a bingo card, but instead of tracking minutes, they track activities they do that are around reading. So read a biography, do this writing thing, whatever. And then they get one when they pick up the first form, and then they get one every time they return a form, a free book.
We have one of the local schools librarian told me that their whole school, except for one teacher, is against reading logs. They don't like giving them to the kids, and he was almost thinking he wasn't going to have me come and talk to the kids about the summer reading program. But when I told him what we're doing this year, we have eliminated the kids having to record minutes or pages or time or anything. All we ask is that if they spend some time reading in a day, that they mark off a box. So we don't know if they're reading 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 3 hours, that we just want them to read something every day. And then he said, oh, that's exactly what we like. And he scheduled.
We did that too. We went to a calendar. We printed off a blank calendar.
Yep.
We talk to the kids when they register with their adult. And I cannot tell you how fun and interesting it has been when those kids bring their calendars in. They are so honest about it. And if you comment, oh, there's 3 days you didn't read, and they said, no, we went and, camping and I didn't read or something. And it just was just so amazing to see the kids were really honest about when they really were reading and then marking it on the calendar. And we said the same thing. We don't care if you read for 5 minutes or for 2 hours. It's just that you're engaged with reading in some way every day.
And that's what Mary Driscoll tells the kids too, because Mary and I do class visits together, and she tells them, if you lose your reading record, no big deal. Just write something down on a piece of paper. And we've been doing this for a couple of years, close to this idea, but it took us a while to realize we don't, because the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 years, we told them, you decide what your reading goal is. Well, now we're even getting rid of that. We're not even asking them to set a reading goal for themselves. We're just simply saying read something every day. And if they don't, then, and ours is not even a calendar, so there's no dates. So if they miss 3 days, there's not 3 blanks.
This is Andre again from Monroe. Do you guys remember the early literacy calendars?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of the kind of thing we use for the 5 and under crowd. So we might have something like that.
We lost your audio.
5 or 30 things on it. And that's they do those things, and that's their participation, and that's how we.
Demco actually puts out a calendar monthly for free with activities too, but they seem geared much younger than
School age.
the school age groups.
In the comments, people are talking about Beanstack a little bit. Is that something that we could explore in the video chat? We're looking for that, or we're looking into it and are wondering if it's something that we could customize with reading challenges rather than just reading, recording a reading log. And I just contacted the representative and looking to get that set up. I was wondering if anyone else was looking into it or has a positive experience about it or with it, and if it was an SCLS thing that we could do as a team, maybe.
Yeah, because my director saw them at PLA and came back going, you need to check this out. And now that I've got time, we're also going to see about, because I like to use it for summer, but also for maybe our 1,000 books program and turning our 1,000 books. Because I worked in Bridges and I was around when they established that app. I don't like the app, and I'd like something a little more interactive for people, and it seems a little more user friendly. I think it was DeForest has been using Beanstack, so they may be able to talk about it a little bit.
Hi, this is Rachel from DeForest. I'm the teen librarian, so I'm not the one that programs our Beanstack. That's someone else. But I will say, if you've used Wandu, it's similar to that. You can choose books, pages, minutes. We're even right now testing, we're doing a 2020 pandemic reading program right now. It's a little weird, but it's kind of fun. We have all the fun virtual resources, but with that, we're trying the point system. So whether it's an activity, a book, you get points for doing all of the activities. They earn badges. We actually hook up with all of our badges at DeForest. We don't really do incentives for book levels. They earn Dragon Dollars. So teens and adults get a Dragon Dollar for one book. This was the old one. Right now we're kind of testing new things. Kids, so like our elementary and lower middle school, earn a Dragon Dollar for 5 books read, and then read to me's are 10 books for a Dragon Dollar. So it's like you can kind of play with it however you need to set it up, and their badges are really fun. You can use their pre-made, the import the CSLP badges, and you can create your own. So there's a whole slew of badges you can choose to use. I don't know, I find that it's actually really easy. Surprisingly, the app is easier to use than the online. So I don't know. I enjoy Beanstack. I think they're doing amazing work. And so far we've been really pleased with it. But yeah, I guess that's our experience right now, is Beanstack has just been very versatile for us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay. We have about 8 minutes left in our meeting, but that doesn't mean this is our last meeting. We can meet again next week too. So yeah, let's look at some of the questions that are coming in through the chat. So yeah, going back to what about families that don't have great access to the internet, and getting books to lower income people without the internet and with low transportation. So it really, we're we're looking at those last two questions, questions about access, questions about equity and inclusivity. I'm thinking about some of the examples that came up earlier. I think Dawn and Andrea mentioned going outside and being in open areas to do programming. I'm wondering if any of you have done outreach programs where you distributed books and materials to groups of people outside of the library, and how you would go about publicizing that.
I
A
went
lot
to
of our outreach stuff. This is Katie from Middleton. We are lucky enough to have a full-time outreach librarian, but
Yeah.
she does a lot of partnerships with community groups. Like we have the food pantry who does a backpack giveaway, and we're always part of that where we are giving away books. I don't know how much that really helps with summer reading, but if you can really find those groups that are already working with these communities, it might help as an easier way to get your name out and help with publicity too. If they're already there and you add the library aspect in, that can be helpful.
Yeah, I was going to say that we have an outreach librarian as well at Verona. This is Mary. And she does a great job. We also have our book bike, which is very helpful because it's good branding and easy to carry around, lots of books. But between that and then our teachers in the Verona School District do books on bikes. So they bring around books and just give them out at different things. So it's actually a little bit difficult to try to give out books at the same time because there's two different groups and we want to make sure that people aren't getting overwhelmed, which is funny with books. But we have given out books at like National Night Out. We also bring, like, we don't want to confuse people between giving out books and checking out books. So sometimes like we don't bring our book bike or we bring it for different reasons. So we've like the books on bike teachers have done National Night Out, but then our outreach librarian has gone to different, we have a lot of like playground groups that are summer signups, and so she'll go around there and do story times and also do our summer reading program. So she'll bring our summer reading logs and stuff for them to sign up to the different leaders of the different community groups, whose like parents are working during the day, and so kids can still be part of the summer reading program even if their parents or grown-ups can't take them to the library during the summer easily. Also in different like apartment complexes, she's done the summer reading program too, so it's a little bit modified. She still does a grand prize drawing and gives out the incentives and the book at the end, but the grand prize drawing is specifically for the group that she's at, instead of like our big ones that we do at the library. So I think modifying a little bit to make it work for your group is, I mean, if you have time, which is half the battle, can be easy if you want to offer the similar things, right? You want to make it equal and equitable, but you also need to be able to carry the things to your site. So just thinking about how you can thinking about how you can adapt your summer reading program to outside groups would be great.
I'm wondering if anyone has thought about what will summer reading program look like if we are basically still under safer at home and social distancing, like extremely like we are now. Like that's what I'm thinking about too.
Any thoughts?
It's just we have to be so adaptable and figure out what are the most important things for us to do. And that's really hard to do because everything that we do for the kids and for the families is important. So how do we take care of our emotional well-being as well as take care of the families?
I'm just brainstorming. This is Andrea from Monroe. But are there ways to, places like laundromats, and somebody said the food pantry, and places like that where we could have summer reading, let's say our forms. So if you're using a calendar type form or something like that, where people could pick them up. We could pre-number everything. It wouldn't be a terribly accurate picture of how many were taken, but it would be an attempt at seeing, figuring out a way to advertise that. People could gather them. You know, maybe there could be a way to drop them off at your library or at your school. I mean, so like just a place to literally collect those forms that they could be gathered later. And then, I mean, I hate to say mail out rewards, but maybe there's something mailable that could be sent. You know, maybe there could be some, I don't know, coupon or an event certificate or invitation.
You could make a thing where you like show up, like the librarian shows up at your house to drop off the books.
Sure, yeah.
Like the book fairy. I have to laugh because I drive back and I drive to New York to visit my family on a regular basis, and I stopped in last summer. I stopped at a rest stop on my way back in Ohio, and the Conneaut Public Library had their summer reading logs at the Burger King that I stopped at for a snack. And I was like, that is awesome that they've got all their summer reading stuff sitting there. I, of course, took one because I'm nosy like that and like to take people's stuff. And I thought it was fantastic that you could go and they were definitely going where they could reach people, which is, you know, the laundromat, the food pantry, going to the Burger King because they know the families will go there. And
how many people have little free libraries on their library ground? We don't, but it just occurred to me, that's a way to pass stuff back and forth too. Might not be the most secure or safe, but it's an option.
We also talked about looking into lockers, like I think DeForest has. So it occurs to me that maybe we could somehow distribute prize books through lockers somehow.
Like combination lockers, so that we don't have to have a locker for every family, but
right. I think they get a special, like they get the code when they, I don't know how you do it, honestly.
So Rachel,
does DeForest have the lockers in their library?
Nope, they are outside. So it is, it's through a system. It's kind of touch and go. It seems to be working right now. I don't know, we haven't been in the building for a week, but we set the code to a certain 4-number digit, and then we email you or call you and let you know this is what your digit's going to be. We put it in a locker system, and it's actually automatic. So they press in like a phone dial kind of thing, and the door will pop open. They grab their materials, and it closes. It's not very big. You can fit maybe 10 picture book. Oh, I don't even know if picture books fit. It's not very big. It's probably only a couple inches. So it's not a huge locker, but it's an option that we have.
how many of you are still going to your library? I haven't been in my library since March 12th.
I go just to grab materials and then I leave because I'm not supposed to work in the building. So it's just when I need more books for story times that I grab books.
Yeah,
Interns feeding the fish.
my boss is feeding the fish, and my husband, before the stay in place order went in, the day before, my husband went and picked up materials for me that my boss and my coworker piled up, and not what I would have picked, but you know, I have stuff now.
Our fish were evacuated quite a while ago, and we are locked out until further notice.
Yeah, the city locked the building, so our keys, our electronic keys don't work. The physical key still works.
Neither of ours do.
Yeah.
Well, even though we're closed to the public, unfortunately, we have been going into work. It's been very hit and miss the last few days. I am lucky to only live about 2 blocks away, so I can go in my back door and stay in my department and not see or interact with anybody. So to make me feel better and have a normal routine, I have been going in every couple of days. I am home today, but we are having people, small groups of people, go in and do work so that they can continue to be paid. We have a pay situation going on at Portage right now, so.
In Marshfield, all of us supervisors are on a rotation basis, so we go in 1 day a week to make sure that deliveries in the mail come through and that the book drop gets emptied and things like that.
We, our board or our director asked us to write down what we're doing because we are getting paid from working from home. But somebody assumed that we're just sitting home and vacationing. And it's like, no, we're actually doing work right now. So we wrote for the board isn't meeting, but we are putting out a board packet that says, exactly what we have been doing from home so that we let them know we may not be in the building, but we are working.
Well, I should say yes, if you're part of the leadership or a department head like myself, yes, we have that option to get our full salary paid from home, that kind of thing. We are trying to advocate for our part-time staff that they are treated the same. We are doing a lot of work, logging in as much as they can from home. And we do have to track everything we are doing for our library board, for our city administrator, and for a few other stakeholders that need more convincing that we're really working hard.
I think this is more support for doing your programs at home, for recording a story time or recording a program or an activity from where you are at the safer from home order. So you can show your board members and show your community that I'm presenting programs. The library is still providing programs, but we're providing them from a place outside of the library, and you need to do prep work for that. So just another shout out for programming from home.
And how many of you are finding that the prep work for a story time is double, at least, of what it used to take? For me, it takes a lot longer.
I'm not sure why, but I agree. It's it's the truth.
We're not doing full story times. We're doing everything as individual chunks. So reading a story, singing the 5 practices song, singing our opening song. We've recorded all of those as individual videos and then chunking them together with, digitally, so that I don't have to do a story time from beginning to end. And so we can sort of mix and match things to put out a product.
Andrea, what are you using to do that? Are you using like iMovie or something like that to splice it together? Or
I think that's what someone else is actually doing that portion of it. And yes, I believe that is what she is using. Or I don't know, she has a couple things at her disposal to utilize.
So that's one of my big questions is there support out there somewhere or tutorials that you would recommend for, it took me embarrassingly long to figure out how to do a live Facebook. And now one day I sat down to do story time about 20 minutes before I was going live, and Facebook popped up this message and said, use our new version. It's wonderful and easier. And I was like, no, it's not. I have to go live in 15 minutes. How do I do it? And I managed it, but it was a bit of a panic for me. But now I see that the new version includes being able to record ahead of time and schedule it. And I like that, but I haven't got a clue. I can't find a tutorial for it, and I don't know how to make it work. And then also all the other things like TikTok and YouTube and iMovie. I don't have that technology.
Karen, is there someone who on your staff typically manages social media? Is there any one person for the whole library?
No, but they're all the other ones who know how to do those things are doing it for their age groups. They're busy with their age groups.
So it's all pieced out. I see. Ours is a little more centralized, so there I have an advantage there. We have one person who does all the posting. Unless there's for some reason she can't, then there are other people who have access who can do it. But we're all less experienced. So we do our chunks, our recordings, and then we just forward them to her for the actual posting.
Yeah, Tiffany was on earlier. It looks like she logged off. She has a lot of these skills, but she has a little baby at home, and her husband's working in a managerial position. So she doesn't have a lot of time. So I don't want to overload her with all of my tech needs when she has her own tween teen programming she's trying to get off the board. And that's,
so
then there's, and Ryan, the director, who is quite busy himself. And then the adult services person, whatever she's working on, I just don't have a lot of support of other staff right now.
Right. So another barrier is simply the way our individual libraries are structured in terms of work and workflow.
Karen, I'm in a similar situation. I don't really have any support of help with my programs. And I found, I don't know how many of you watched the iSchool webinar about virtual programming, but I found it tremendously helpful, and probably the most helpful to me was that they stressed doing, watching your comfort level. And if you are comfortable with live programming, do it that way. If you're not, record a program and just think about the things you are most comfortable with, and it will really help with your performance. It'll help with your workflow. And I have focused on that and found it tremendously helpful. We should all be gentle with ourselves and realize that these are extreme situations, and we need to take care of ourselves, and we'll do the best we can. If we, think about that, think about what you can do comfortably.
I agree. That's great advice.
I want to do more.
And that's something that I'm seeing, is that as youth services librarians, we are the ones who are innovative, and we are the ones who really want to provide service. I mean, those first programs came up within a couple of days after we all were closing down. And I'm just going to reiterate what you all have been saying, is that we have to be compassionate with ourselves and with each other, and know that there isn't any big competition or conflict or pressure, that what we're doing is amazing, and what we're doing is enough, because we can't burn ourselves out either, and being supportive of each other.
My last question was, how do we find our regular kids, our regular library kids, if we didn't use pre-registration?
Okay, one before we go to that, Murray, did you have?
All I was going to say was I see a lot of WLA presentations in October on this topic.
So Karen, I'm going to suggest, because it is 12 minutes now past our meeting, I'm going to suggest that we start your topic the next time that we meet, okay? Reaching regular kids. or our story time group. I'm also going to recommend that we look at meeting next week, but on a different day at a different time, in order to just provide a little variety for people who are doing programs during this time and who want to participate live. Right now, I'm looking at Wednesday, the 8th at 1 p.m. as a possible date.
I don't have my calendar open.
So, and we don't have to determine that right now. Maybe I'll send a Google form out and I can get some input that way.
Just to step in here,
Yeah.
Sean, School Library Journal has their middle grade webinar, all-day webinar next Wednesday. So
Okay.
I'm signed up for that. I don't know if some of you others are signed up for that all-day webinar.
We'll stay away from Wednesday then. Thank you.
And I have homeschooling from 2 to 4 every day.
I'll send a Google form out, knowing that we'll avoid Wednesday. I'll include getting together at Tuesday at 10 as an option in that form, and we'll see what works out for everybody. Okay, so as I said, this program has been recorded. I'm recording it right now. Please send me your ideas, send me lists of things that you're doing. Andrea sent me a list of things that she's doing virtually from her library in Monroe, and I'll send that out to everybody and include it on the spreadsheet, which is still open, which you can still contribute to. I've also taken a bunch of notes throughout today's meeting about things that I will follow up on, and in no particular order, definitely finding tutorials for you on using different formats. I'll check in with Craig Ellefson, he's a photographer, and Mark Ibaugh, he's a videographer, and see if they have any thoughts about different formats. Find out a little bit more about Beanstalk and find out more about lockers. Oh, and one more thing is I want you to know that Deb Hafner is still around and is working from home. So if you have any graphic needs, please email her. She would love to work on anything that you're thinking of for the summer library program. So if things that we talked about today inspired you to, hey, you know, maybe create a calendar for people to fill in their daily activities, contact Deb and she can work with you. We're here. We're here. You can email us. None of us are in the office, but so email us and we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can, and know that we're working a lot behind the scenes. All right, so I will send out that Google form. I'll work on it this afternoon, get it out by tomorrow, and we'll get together again next week. Okay, thanks everybody. Be well, practice compassion. Glad to see you.
Thank you, Sean.